Well, folks, it appears that it's happening. The president's been overtly accused of crimes by his former lawyer under oath. It's kind of surreal, to be honest. Nope. No, this is real. Let's get into it. On this episode of the Crackdown, we're going to focus exclusively on Michael Cohen's testimony in front of the House Oversight and Reform Committee. Some pretty major allegations against President Trump and his campaign were made, and they've got some big implications for the future of the Trump administration. We're going to sum it all up right here from WHIP News. I'm Tony Pearson, and this is a WHIP Weekly News Crackdown. It's a special one. So, let's start with some background. You probably know Michael Cohen as President Donald Trump's ex-attorney. He began working for Trump in 2006 and continued in that capacity for 10 years. He also performed as an informal advisor to the Trump campaign while it was in full swing. While he's been in trouble recently for a lot of things, he's in especially hot water for a payment he arranged during Trump's campaign. In August 2016, Cohen arranged a deal with former Playboy Playmate of the Year, Karen McDugal. McDugal was attempting to sell a story about an alleged affair she had with Trump in 2006. Cohen helped facilitate a deal in which American Media Inc., which owns the National Enquirer, paid McDugal $150,000 for her story so they could bury it. Then, in October of 2016, Cohen arranged what was essentially a hush money payment of $130,000 to Stormi Daniels, a porn star who also claimed to have had an affair with Trump in 2006. Must have been some year. The Wall Street Journal reported on the payment made to Stormi Daniels in January of 2018, alleging that it was part of a non-disclosure agreement that prevented her from making any statements of an affair. Cohen responded by sharing a statement signed by Stormi Daniels, which denied any sexual or romantic affair with Trump. A month later, as the payment gained attention, Cohen told the New York Times that he had paid Stormi Daniels out of his own pocket and insisted that President Trump had no involvement or knowledge of the transaction. With the cat out of the bag that something was up, Stormi Daniels filed a lawsuit against President Trump and Mr. Cohen that year in an attempt to void the non-disclosure agreement that she had previously signed. During this time, Trump denied any knowledge of the payment and said that he did not in any way fund it. This is important because if he did, campaign finance laws could come into play. Let's fast forward a few months. By April of 2018, Cohen was a suspect in a variety of crimes. The FBI raided his home, office, and hotel room, fearing documents might be destroyed. They seized emails, tax documents, and business records in the process. Following the raid, speculators wondered if Cohen would flip on President Trump, especially when he hired Lanny Davis as his personal lawyer. In July of 2018, Davis released a recording of a conversation between Cohen and Trump, in which they allegedly discussed the payment made to Karen McDugal. Cohen had secretly taped 12 recordings like this, which the FBI seized during its raid. Remember that, officially, the president has denied any knowledge of these affairs. By August of last year, Cohen flipped on the president, pleading guilty of bank fraud, tax fraud, and campaign finance law violations in the Southern District of New York. He told a federal court that he violated campaign finance laws under the direction of a candidate for federal office. This was referring to Donald Trump. Cohen pleaded guilty in November, this time saying that he lied to Congress about a potential deal with Russia. As Trump's lawyer, Cohen led discussions about a Trump Tower building in Moscow, and he admitted to lying about the extent of Trump's involvement with the Russia deal, as well as about the duration of the negotiations. Cohen pled guilty to one count of lying to Congress and agreed to cooperate completely with the Mueller investigation. He was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison in December. All of these developments imply that, well, the president lied at various points about his actions during the campaign in ways that might constitute crimes. But specifics have been kind of shady without any new testimony from Cohen. And that brings us up to this past week. On Wednesday, February 27th, Michael Cohen testified in a day-long open hearing before the House Oversight and Reform Committee. Cohen told Congress that the president lied to the American public about business interests in Russia during the 2016 campaign and lied to reporters about stolen Democratic emails During his testimony, Cohen called President Trump a racist, a con man, and a cheat, and said, quote, "I am not protecting Mr. Trump anymore." Republicans on the president's re-election campaign committee challenged Cohen's credibility, calling him a cheat. Cohen, who will serve his 3-year prison term this spring, said Trump did not run for president to make the country great, but rather to promote his business. He described his 10 years working for Trump as one filled with deceit, while ignoring his own conscience. Now, that's all spicy for sure, but let's get into more specific allegations. Cohen discussed actions taken by Trump and presented documents to corroborate his claims. He was, after all, the president's lawyer. These included copies of checks with reimbursements for $130,000 in hush payments he made to Stormi Daniels. Cohen said that Trump initiated the hush payment plan while he was a candidate. He also said that while Trump was in office, he arranged for 11 checks to reimburse Cohen, contradicting his and the president's earlier claims to the contrary. After reports about the payments came out in February of last year, Cohen claimed the president called him to discuss what he should say publicly. Cohen says he was told to say that the president did not have any knowledge regarding this issue. In addition, Cohen told lawmakers that Mr. Trump personally monitored negotiations to build a Trump Tower in Moscow, despite the president's frequent public claims that no such deal existed. In previous testimony by federal authorities, Cohen lied to Congress saying the project was dropped by January 2016. This time, he brought up a June 2016 meeting at Trump Tower, which included Donald Trump Jr., the president's eldest son, Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, and Paul Manafort, the campaign chairman. They met with visiting Russians after being offered information on Hillary Clinton from the Russian government, an event we discussed after Jeff Sessions' resignation on an earlier crackdown. Cohen did not provide evidence that the Trump campaign actually colluded with Russia. That is to say, that they went through with the deal, but he said that he suspects it. Cohen recalled being in Trump's office before the 2016 Democratic National Convention when Roger J. Stone Jr., a longtime advisor, called in. While on speaker, Stone reported that he had just spoken with Julian Assange, the founder of WikiLeaks, who said that within a couple of days, there would be a massive dump of emails that would damage Hillary Clinton's campaign. In an interview last month, Trump denied speaking to Stone about this matter. Stone was charged with obstructing justice, making false statements, and witness tampering on January 25th. Stone also disputed this account, and Barry Pollock, a lawyer for Assange, said Stone and Assange did not partake in the telephone call that Cohen described. While this all went down, the president was halfway around the world in Vietnam for a meeting with North Korea's leader. Trump responded to Cohen's allegations from a hotel in Vietnam via Twitter, saying Cohen, quote, did bad things unrelated to Trump and, quote, is lying in order to reduce his prison time. But for the record, lying in this case would likely do the opposite of reduce his prison time. Cohen's under oath. But hey, let's get into what this all means. At the moment, it is difficult to actually know the full implications of Wednesday's testimony. While several documents were presented by Cohen, many accusations against President Trump will need more evidence before any legal action can be taken. In the case of the Stormi Daniels payments, campaign finance laws require proof that the president was aware he was breaking the law when he arranged the hush money. Mr. Cohen provided no such proof during his testimony. Similarly, Trump's involvement with the WikiLeaks dump of Democrat emails during the 2016 campaign is still unclear. While Cohen claimed Trump knew about the hacks ahead of time and had contact with both Roger Stone and Julian Assange regarding the hacked information, this does not prove that the Trump campaign is guilty of conspiracy. To prove that would require proof that the campaign or Mr. Trump himself worked with Russians to release the damaging documents. This is where that Trump Tower meeting and the actions of Stone in particular remain very important. Thus far, in response to questions from Robert Mueller, Trump denied any contact with Mr. Stone and Mr. Assange. What we can say is that Cohen's accusations are serious enough to warrant further investigations and testimony. They did not absolve the president of any involvement in many of these crimes. If Cohen is correct in his accusations, Trump could find himself in serious legal trouble. Peter Zeidenberg, a former federal prosecutor, told the New York Times, quote, when you lie in that context, it's not only perjury, but it's obstruction of justice too. Trump may also face legal consequences for his involvement in the Moscow-Trump Tower deal. Although the president never explicitly directed Cohen to lie to Congress about the timing of his involvement with the deal, legal experts say that no proof of explicit direction is needed if the president's intent was clear. A case for conspiracy with the Russians against Trump can be built without this hard evidence, and the Moscow deal may be at the forefront of that case. Many have called Cohen's credibility into question. On Wednesday, Trump's re-election campaign released a statement through spokeswoman Kayleigh McEnany, who stated, quote, "Michael Cohen is a felon, a disbarred lawyer, and a convicted perjurer. This is the same Cohen who has admitted that he lied to Congress previously. Why did they even bother to swear him in this time?" It's worth recalling, though, that his earlier lies were made, allegedly, in defense of the Trump campaign. He was convicted as a result of those lies, and this latest testimony is being held in part as a response to that conviction. It's all a bit muddy, to say the least. Overall, the legal implications of Cohen's testimony are currently inconclusive and subject to change as more evidence surfaces. What we can say is that the testimony was not an exoneration of the president, and that the claims made have been more than credible enough to warrant further investigation. If even some of these claims are partially true, the president at the very least brazenly lied to the American public, and likely committed crimes. The special counsel investigation, which is allegedly nearing completion, will hopefully shed more light on some of these more serious claims. Currently, a Justice Department policy protects Donald Trump by asserting that a president may not be indicted while in office. The laws surrounding Cohen's accusations are complex, and none of what the former lawyer presented on Wednesday has yet to dramatically change any of the legal cases against Mr. Trump. To see the true implications of all this, we'll need to see that report from Mueller. But these things don't happen overnight, and that's all the time we have for today. Strange times we're living in. Join us next week for a special vintage episode of The Crackdown. Like, subscribe, and share if you enjoy the way we do news. I'm Tony Pearson, and this has been your WHIP Weekly News Crackdown. Hope you enjoyed it.